these are the 3 dharma words that we introduce every week. So since we do this every week here, now from the next week, we will be doing this. So it's every class actually. So until now, we had only 3 words per week. From next week, we will be having 9 words per week. So yes, so if you would just see here, we have 3 words. The first one is gewa, gewa, gewa. Gewa means virtue. Anything that is virtuous is gewa. Okay, I'll get the email then. So anything that is virtuous is gewa. Something that that bends your mind towards the dharma is gewa. Tikpa, tikpa, tikpa. Tikpa means non-virtue. Anything that bends your mind towards something that is against the dharma is tikpa. And then the third one is lungmate. So we see that here we have encountered the first word that has 3 syllables. Lungmaten, lungmaten. So lungmaten, lungmaten, which means non-indicative or neutral. So when we say non-indicative, it means that it is not shown or not mentioned by the teaching of Buddha. So phenomena that has not been mentioned by Buddha as being either virtue or non-virtue. So these are neutral phenomena, which are not virtue, which are nor virtue, neither virtue nor non-virtue. So with this, we are officially done with the 8 weeks course, and now we're doing the question answer. So if anyone has questions, please ask away regarding today's lesson.
Excuse me again, La.
Yes.
I saw there are some words we have just the dot at the end of the word, but some words we have the stress sign. I don't know how to call it. That's yeah.
So yes. So you're referring to. Let me just go and show you. So you mean like these words? We have this one, right? This punctuation.
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's
for
right.
let me find the
and the dot like a gong
yes
balloon.
Here
balloon.
We see that we don't have the line. Instead, we have this dot, right?
Yeah.
So this is the character that is only to the sound or the consonant ka. If ka is if the last letter of any word or name is ka, and then we have to use the punctuation, which indicates that this is the single word, that this word is the single word. In those cases, we usually use this one, which says that this entire thing is one word. So this is one single word. But if you have ka at the end of the word, we don't use this punctuation. Instead, we use this dot to indicate that the thing is that with ka, we don't normally, if it's just a single word, we don't use this punctuation at all. But there is preference. Some people use this dot. Some people, they don't even use the dot. But normally we don't even have to use the dot. It's something more preference of the person that's actually writing it. And so it is something that only has to do with the words which have ka at the end. So any word that has ka at the end will have will have the dot, or will have nothing at the end, but all the rest will have this sign. Let me actually find something else. I don't see here. So if I don't see here, I'll just write something. That would be better. So let me add an empty. And that, let me just take a text box here. Let's make it 300 so that it's visible. So let me. So we have so here, in this case, we see that the last word is nga. Oh, sorry, the last letter is nga. In this case, we don't only use this, but between this and the last letter, we also have to use the dot. So this is rule. This is a rule that tells us how to use the punctuation. So in the rule states that if it's a name or a word that ends with ka, like in the case of with the case of Gengpu, with the case of Gengpu, we say that if the word ends with a ka, it will not have any punctuation. But preferentially, some scholars they use the dot. Some scholars they don't use the dot. But it depends on which scholar that you primarily follow in the discipline of the science of sound, which is or the grammar. So here, since the scholar that I follow while studying the grammar uses this dot indicating the end, so I also do the same. But in some cases, you'll see that there's nothing there. It's just ka and nothing. So for case where there is ka, you cannot use this punctuation. For all the rest, you can use this punctuation. But in case of nga, you will use this punctuation, which is this line, which indicates that this is a single word, that everything in from the beginning to this point, like from pa to this point, is a single word. This punctuation will be used, but for the nga, there's a rule that states that only for nga, when we use this punctuation, we have to write the dot in between. But for the case of ka, we don't use anything. But some scholars they use the dot, some they don't use the dot, but you cannot use this punctuation with ka. But for the rest of the 28 consonants, you can use this directly after the word. For example, in these cases, we see that the punctuation is being used directly. So this is a rule that is that has to do with the punctuation, and this is a rule that we will later learn when we study the grammatical text. So later on, if those who are studying right now the fundamental, when they are interested, we're also going to do the grammar class. So if you can catch on, you can actually catch it during probably in October or end of September. By then, if you're able to actually read everything properly and understand few of the vocabulary, then you can join us in the grammar class, where we will discuss the one of the classical text known as 30, in which they have this rule where they say how each punctuation should be used. So this is the rule that tells us why, if there is ka, you can either use dot depending on the scholar that you follow, or you use nothing. For the rest of the word, for the rest of the consonant, you can use this punctuation. But in case of nga, you will use this punctuation, but with the dot in the middle. So this is the rule.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
can I translate to them a little bit?
Definitely.
Hồi nãy Hiền có hỏi thầy á, là tại sao cái dấu chấm câu á mình có cái dấu chấm và một cái dấu sổ đó xuống là khi nào thầy dùng nó, thì thầy giảng là cái chữ sau cái chữ Nga này nè thì bắt buộc theo cái quy luật của nó là phải có cái dấu chấm, phải có dấu chấm ở giữa và có cái dấu sổ xuống luôn. Còn cái chữ K đó, vì nó đã có cái dấu sổ xuống rồi thì mình không cần cái dấu sổ này nữa, mình chỉ cần cái dấu chấm thôi. Còn tất cả các chữ khác thì phải có cái dấu sổ đó nhưng không có dấu chấm, ngoại trừ đặc biệt cái chữ Nga này nè là dấu chấm ở giữa và có cái chữ sổ, đó là cái rule của nó là như vậy cái quy định là như vậy rồi, bắt buộc là phải như vậy. Thank you again.
Thank you. So any other questions? Does anyone else have a question? So
nothing else.
So no more questions. So thank you for joining us for 8 weeks course on the general classification of basic sounds. And those who are interested may join us next week for the combined reading class. So for 12 days, we will be reading different story books, different basic books to actually study the combined reading. So the difference between this class and that class is that in this class, you see that I'm reading it as po sang sang. But in that class, in the class next week, we won't be reading it like this. Instead, we will be reading it combined, which is sang. So this will be the level at which we will be learning next class. And the reason why we will be studying combined reading is because in some cases people don't understand where they should separate and where they should join. So while reading, even though they can read a single word, they have difficulty reading a sentence because they don't know which word comes with which one, you know? So in order to help them actually read those, we will be doing the first class of combined reading, which will be so I still haven't decided which book we should be using, but probably we will not only decide on the book, but we will also provide a PDF of the book to everyone through the app, or those who have given us the email address, we will be sending them the PDF of that book through the email. So I guess this is it for today, and let me do this, and I will see you next week.